What's up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Heath, and today we're diving into the wonderful world of Electro, building up a track idea from scratch right here in Ableton Live. I'm going to draw a bit from some of the classic Detroit styles of Electro, but also the modern styles as well. Think kind of hard-hitting drum machines, analog sort of style bass lines, and some robotic rhythmic sequences with some attitude. That'll be cool. I'll be sharing every decision, every happy accident, and yes, every dead end, creative dead ends along the way. That's how it goes. So grab yourself a beverage, jump in the chat, and let's create some magic together, hopefully. So without further ado, let's get started and check we've got some levels and some music. So I've just been messing around with a few bits here pre-stream. The main thing we want to get right is particularly the drums, I think, with Electro. Xavi Diaz, buenas tardes, good afternoon to you. Great to see you here in the chat already. So hopefully mic levels are good, Xavi. If you could let me know, give us a thumbs up or something like that. So let's have a listen to the drums here. It's a bit quiet, so we're just going to get a limiter on the master. Let's drop this bass in. Right, so that's really just to do a test. We're obviously going to start from scratch here, but that's kind of perhaps something along the lines of what we'll end up with, but we're definitely going to focus on those drums and get that kind of electro rhythm that the genre is really known for. And this inspiration, it kind of started from a friend just only, I don't know, I think it was sometime earlier in the week, sending me this kind of really cool track. It's by the artist called Salome, and Romantic Malfunction, I think, was the name of the tune. I thought, that's great. I haven't heard some electro for a while. Really love it. It's very futuristic. And I thought, why not? Let's do a stream and let's dive into making some electro. So I'd also love to hear from you if you're in the stream. What do you think about the new timing of 5 o'clock? That's 5 o'clock my local time. I'm trying to start a couple of hours later just to see if that allows some more of you to join into the live stream. So let me know, is that a thumbs up? Great, 2 hours later works well for me, or you prefer the old time of 3 p.m., which was 2 hours before that I usually used to do these streams. I'm also thinking as well, maybe to trim it from 2 hours to 1.5. So again, love your feedback on those kind of things. It helps a lot for me to make sure I'm, making the channel work the best for you guys and girls, the ones of you that turn up regularly and enjoy these streams and the content. So, right, fresh screen. We're going to go for about 137 BPM. Let's get up into those higher BPMs. Let's get a limiter again on the master. That's just going to help us get a little bit more juice for the YouTube environment. So drum kits. We could go really classic here. 909s, 606s, 808s. They're all from that Detroit original classic electro days, but we could also use something like a nice kind of modern drum kit as well. We're really just looking for the beat. So why don't we do a bit of both? Maybe we'll try a little bit of both. So let's say maybe we start with a 909 kit. And if I use Ableton's kind of instruments and kits, that way I'm sure many of you will be able to follow along as well and create your own beats and synth sounds and all that good sort of thing. So let's grab this 909 flavor kit, not the core kit. What might the difference be there? The main thing with the core kit is it does have some controls here, or some snapshots as we call them. So you can go through clean, boomy, lo-fi and hot and adjust some of these macros, some of these parameters. But the 909 flavor kit has a bit of other stuff. It's kind of got this squash, overdrive, saturate, so we can kind of get some more crunchy kind of stuff happening with that. So I think that might be kind of cool to play with this flavor kit instead of the core kits. So let's build up our beat. Let's get a couple of bars here. We'll extend it out in a moment. So kick drums, we're going to have bit of a pattern like this. So we're going on beat, syncopated, and then syncopated again and again. And then we're going to duplicate that. And over here, we're going to take away this hit here maybe, and that should almost be our sort of classic kind of electro kick pattern. So let's have a listen to that. Just going to adjust my own volumes here. It's a little bit quiet this end, so we'll crank that up a bit. Okay, and then we can go straight from that into a snare here. So like this one, it's a little bit shorter. So let's maybe say we roll with that one for now. And they're just going to go on the standard 2 and 4 position here for your typical backbeat or accented 2 and 4 hit. So we now should again get that, starting to get that beat rolling. And if we want any sort of little variations and stuff, we can already start to kind of like, you know, adjust those around a little bit. So we could have a little bit of velocity change on those snares a bit, so they're a little bit more vibey. So let's do that. Just have a little bit of difference between them. So we've got a little bit of, well, we want machine feel here, but nice. Next up, we're going to do our hi-hats. Let's have a closed hi-hat and let's have some fast hi-hats. And we're going to go sort of like this. And then what we're going to do with those is we're going to, again, get straight into the velocity of that pattern there. So let's kind of tweak that a little bit. And then we're going to duplicate that over into the second bar as well. Play around with this velocity a bit. So you can hear it's quite interesting with a lot of velocity change. So I'm drawn more towards that. Because that feels really nice and groovy, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up our drum rack panel here. And let's get to that closed hi-hat. I want to bring it down a little bit. It's a little bit loud for the rest of the drums right now. So get in there and bring that down a bit. Nice. And we can do some other things as well. We can get into this hi-hat, right into the instrument itself. And maybe we'll have already a little bit of sound design work on it. So what we could do is turn it into classic, get into the second page here, just randomly pan it a little bit. So you have a nice bit of movement left and right. You can also play with the envelope a bit, maybe a short release. Shorter. Some of theirs quite nice, shaping the ADSR. Be a little roll off on the attack as well. So just to get a little bit of shape into that, and we could add some effects and things here as well to kind of like take that hi-hat in its own direction, but just wanted to shape it just very basically for now and a bit of volume, and I think we're in good shape there. So let's get back to our program, the pattern itself. We left some space there in these closed hi-hats, and we did that on purpose. Well, I did it on purpose so that I can add another kind of hi-hat in that space, and maybe we'll use the classic 909 open here and have that on the 2 and 4 in between those closed hi-hats. And sometimes we might have to watch out, as I think that's getting choked off, what's called choked off in the choke group perhaps. So we're going to have a look down here into the drum rack itself, and we're going to try and reveal the chains, not chains, come back from that, we can go hide there. So really what we want is the ins and outs of that if we can. So more into this area, and then we want the ins and outs down here, and we can kind of see if there's any choke group action going on. And there is, so that's the reason we don't hear our open hi-hats here. It's being choked. So we're just going to turn that off to none for now. But it's still kind of more obvious now. But it does get lost behind, a little bit behind the snare, but that's okay. I'm okay with that for now. Okay, so we've got our nice kind of rolling 909 electro beat. That was one of the most important things to do here. Now with this kit, like I said, we've got all this lovely kind of stuff that we can do over here on the macros. And so what we're going to do is we can close up that choke group and everything now. Just in case you've never seen that before, like I said, it's following like a drum kit behavior, that when you play an open and a closed hi-hat, typically one cut, you can't play both. In a DW we can, but on a drum kit one cuts off the other. And so if you're digging into these drum racks, you'll sometimes find here, getting down into the ins and outs where I went and into this choke, you can see some sounds are put into groups and they will cut each other off. Really, in the end, actually, it kind of wasn't really the case here, that it was getting choked, because it would be being choked by the closed hi-hat, which isn't happening on that hit. I think it's more just getting masked by the snare, just to point that out in case someone's wondering. But I'm going to turn it off anyway. It's no longer in a group, but I think, yeah, as I said, it's actually just a bit more masking in this case. Anyway, let's pop out of there and let's get back over to here and into the snapshots. And then what we can do is over here, and we can also just close up, that's better. A few of these things, that'll do. Okay. So over here, we've got our macros. This is a 909 flavor kit, so it's got a bit more about it than, as I said, the standard 909 kit. So let's start by capturing it as it sounds now. So we're just going to click new. And what we're going to do actually is going to grab that open hi-hat as well and bring it down a little bit. Adjust its release a bit. Bit of attack off. Just dialing that in again, just so that it's connecting with the snare that it's playing together with at the same time. Okay, nice. Yeah, kit down a bit as well. Our limiters may be working already and it doesn't really need to, so we're just fixing that. We're just going to bring that down slightly. Okay, so we've got a little bit of headroom. Cool. So back to what we were looking at. 909 flavor kits. We've got a variation now, which has captured all these macros in their default position. So again, if we want to just do that again from fresh here, what I'm doing is I'm capturing the rack as it was coming from straight out of Ableton's browser and onto this track, and the macros are already set up a certain way. So if I do new up here, it creates that pattern of macros, and we can name it as well if we like. So sometimes I like to just call this the original. And now we know that we've preserved that. Anytime we want to go back to this, we can go back to it, which could be an important thing, right? Because now what we can do is play around with randomizing these macros. So we might really want to smash this drum kit up. Right, so I'm just sort of showing you what we might want to do is start doing that, but I'm going to go back to the original here. So there it is. straight back. That's the reason why I did that sort of little bit of workflow, right? So I preserved all the macros as they were. Lots of fun stuff here where we can do some sound design and really crush up the kit, and we can have the original kit versus crushed, or all sorts of possibilities. What we're going to do is we're going to duplicate the whole track over, and we're going to have the 909 drums here. And on this second track, I'm going to get rid of the 909 kits, and we're going to try another kit. And on that kit, let's maybe choose this boom kit here, one I sort of had highlighted. And this one, again, has lots of kind of macros and fun stuff, and it already has 3 snapshots as well. And what we're going to do is make sure our hits are landing in the right place in the boom kit. Let's have a listen. Nice. So similarly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over here, and again, I'm just going to save one just in case, new, and that's going to give me the same workflow as the 909. So I've got my original snapshot here ready to rumble if I want to at any point go back to resetting that. And now what I can do is maybe use this kit as the one that I'm going to randomize the macros or crush it up and layer it alongside the 909. So what I'm going to do in here is I'm going to mute the kick drums. Let's leave those out of this, and then we can play the two together. And then with the boom kit, let's try out what it sounds like if we mess around a bit with a, okay, F, A or C, but let's go back original, and now let's randomize to our own preference. It's interesting, so we can just save that. Also interesting, save that. Also, right? So it's kind of a fun way to work because you can get this kind of like snapshots going. We know we can go back anytime to where we began if we like. We've got the presets that sort of were inside this particular boom kits, the F, A, and C, and now we've started building our own versions here. And like you can see, I took away the kick from the drum pattern, but you could take away other sounds, or you could add the kick in if you like. That's really up to you. What does it sound like if it's including the kick, you know? Bit of a weaker kick, right, which is what I was sort of concerned about. So I want to preserve my 909 kick over here. So I'm taking the kick out of this. And if I want, I can check. Maybe it's just the snare I want. I like that. Right? So you can kind of pick and choose, but on this kit, it's here to be really crushed and messed up to layer alongside the 909. I think this is my favorite. Sometimes what I'll do is if I really want to do that as well is I'll take the kick drum out of the rack, so we can always remove the kick from here, like extract the chains, and then it's no longer inside the rack getting affected by all those macros. Capers, great to see you. A very good morning to you. Show is still on the ground in Brooklyn. Good to hear that, and great to have you on board. I hope you're enjoying the slightly later start time today, as I know that that's your morning. So if it is a thumbs up, ladies and gents, if you prefer 5 Central Eastern time, that's my local time, instead of 3 when I normally start, then do let me know and we can make that a regular feature. All right, so we've got 2 drum kits, a little bit of a modern kit layered with the 909. We've got our electro beat. I'm going to play around with this a little bit more. I'm going to go back to the original. Maybe even something subtle like that. Okay, so now bass lines. Let's have a bit of a bass line action. And I think we're going to use maybe some samples, but again, I'm going to try and keep it Ableton friendly so you can, follow along. If you're obviously with all the tools in Ableton Live, then you should be able to follow along rather than me using third-party stuff and, lots of samples from a sample library that you don't have. So let's have an operator as our bass synth. And then what we're going to do, maybe what we'll do is we'll have like an arpeggio of some kind. Let's try that first. And we could pick a scale. Let's definitely have a minor. And let's maybe say, if we go A minor, again, it could be a little bit easier to follow along. It's all the white notes from A to A. And let's say we go for some what we call octave type chords. So we definitely want a couple of notes from the same key, but an octave apart. So let's have that. And then we're going to pick something in the middle to have a little bit of edginess to it. So if we unfold the scale and we have a look here, we're going to make a third here. But let's maybe have something. Maybe we'll have the third here. Capers, the one-on-one session really helped me. I have to do another this month. Awesome. I'm very happy to hear that. And thank you for letting me know. Operator for the bass line, indeed. Okay, so we've got a very basic chord here, right? So if we hold that down, and then we can just play around a bit with this middle note. It's going to give us a bit of tension. And if we want, we can make it shorter while we mess around with this tension note. Okay, maybe something like that. It's all going to come down a fair way as well. So let's go down an octave. So I kind of want a bit creepy, a bit kind of moody today. That's what we're aiming for. So let's loop this back up to a bar now. And then we can get our arpeggio in here. We're going to try for an arpeggiated kind of bass line. And let's set it up to be a style of kind of like up and down or something like that. So we get a little bit of movement in it. Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. Okay, let's change from sine wave, maybe into the saws, I think. Or if we go sine, let's give ourselves some feedback. So let's change ourselves to the traffic light horizontal instead of vertical. That means I can get back to this oscillator and make it feed back on itself. Okay, so raw tone. I want an acid sound really. I might just put this back up. And then we can play around a bit with this middle note as well. Or actually it was the F, right? So something like that for our bass sequence, right? Let's just get our envelopes dialed in as well on the bass synth. Could also maybe try a little bit of pitch envelope. It's nice for a little bit more sort of transient here. If we use the pitch envelope, make it quite tight. If you want a little bit of zappy laser sound, you can do that as well. Just bring up the initial, bring the attack out a bit, not too far. We get that really nice kind of plucky transient, and if we want to adjust that, we can also bring this peak up. So we're kind of making almost a kick drum with the operator here, but we're using it on top of our oscillator, in this case more to get our bass synth sound. Right, so depending on what you're looking for, the decay, all of these parameters gives us quite a nice shape on our bass. So the next thing that could be fun here is to add a little bit of like randomness to this operator patch, because if we print it to MIDI, so what have we got right now? So let's do a new MIDI track next door, and if we route the operator into this, turn it to in and record, our arpeggio is going to look like. Which is fine. It's a nice arpeggio, it's going up and down, that's the pattern we've chosen, and it looks exactly like that. If we print it out, that's the up we're using on the bass line. But what could be fun here is just to have a little bit more variation in it. So we could do that a few ways. Maybe we'll try a couple of different ways. So we could have a second chord perhaps. So we could copy the clip down, change its color, and then let's extend this to 2 bars. And then what we could do is, let's duplicate that over, not with that timing. Let's move that back, bring that in. And then what we could do is just make a change. And if I get it quite close to the original chord over here, we can really get some quite a lot of tension in here, so we can kind of bring it right down. And if we have it almost only a semitone apart, you can get really bit of rub here. So looking for a little bit of kind of moodiness tension here. Oops, one step too far. So maybe something like that, but that note is out of the scale, A minor, but I'm okay with that at the moment. So that's one option, one idea for this bass sequence, to have a little bit of variation in it. So we've got 2 chords, it's being arpeggiated. The other option is, go back to our original chord here, and we use an audio effect, play around with that. And we're just looking for a little bit of variation in the pattern, something a little bit more interesting than just that constant sequence going round and round. So let's try here. A little bit of our good old friend, beat repeat, not to be only used on beats, but great for creating little fills and glitches on things like bass lines. So let's try it. So you could have something like that. Right? Let's make it instead of every quarter. So lots of fun here. We could use both of these things tied together. So that's kind of nice for now. Giving ourselves a little bit of this beat repeat, giving us some nice little shuffly kind of glitches and fills, and really tip of the iceberg stuff here. I'm just playing around at the moment with how often the repeat happens, what is the grid or note length of that repeat, and then playing around a bit with the offset and the gate again to dial in where that repeat is going to happen and how long the duration of it. If we put the two chords together, we can use both potentially. So what I was just trying out with an octave up on the ARP, but what we might try again is to do that down here. So what we might try something like having one of these up an octave in here just to see what that sounds like if we're playing with this sequence a little bit. Got some suggestions in the chat here. Operator for the bass line, we're doing that. Put LFO on the variation of the beat repeat. That can be fun, but it can also get pretty chaotic pretty quickly. So it really just depends what you want. If that's sort of what you're looking for, go for it. What you can do, capers, for that is you can get over here and you can use this variation macro already to have like randomized different kind of beat repeats. So this can be wild and chaos, or it can be really controlled. I'm using it more controlled here. I don't want it too crazy. Some note length variation, Chavidia's suggestion, that could be an option. Given that we're not currently with a printed sequence, we'd need to play around a little bit with something like a note length MIDI effect perhaps to do that. So that could be interesting, but we can come back and visit that as well. Let's just try this little octave up here. Let's have that for a lot shorter. What's the minimum we need to trigger that? Let's also, while we're in here, have a little bit of randomization on these chords as well that are providing the ARP. Yeah, I'm not sold on the octave. It was a bit too much for my ear. That could be more interesting. It's funny because like the two chords plus the beat repeat, it's kind of interesting with this little bump up here, giving us a little bit of change as well. But I kind of quite like the monotony at the moment of just our singular chord that just keeps repeating on that sequence. With the beat repeat, I kind of feel like it's a more solid foundation. Okay, so maybe what's next? Maybe we can, let's see, I have a little bit of audio over here. So maybe we can drag that in, drop it on a track. And we can use this as a little idea for maybe some voice, kind of a little bit of robotic voice. So let's warp this and wait for that to happen. Let's chuck it in Complex Pro. Don't worry about too much about the timing, but let's loop up a little section. This, to be honest, actually doesn't look too bad for how it lands on the beat or close to the beat. Let's have a listen in isolation.
When I die, when my coffin is being taken out,
So we could kind of adjust it a bit manually.
When my coffin is being taken out, when I die, when my coffin is being taken out,
Okay,
when I die,
so bit of a vocal idea.
When I die, when my coffin is being taken out.
But we're not going to leave it like that. No way. Okay, we're going to get some robot action here. We could possibly even take it so that we don't distinguish what's being said, because I didn't really plan exactly for, you know, this to be a special storytelling part of this idea, but it could be. And we might be choosing something that's kind of edgy and we want people to understand what's being said, or we might go for something where, as I said, we're not really distinguishing what's being said. We're just getting this nice kind of voice texture, which was more what I was thinking for a moment. So spectral resonator on this track. And then what we could do, let's have this with a little bit less content. So maybe just with the bass line. Or even just on its own for a moment. I'll just show you how I'm going to shape it, right? So spectral resonator as it is already pretty cool. What I could play around with a bit is repitching it. We could also put this into mono. We can mess around with quite a few things. So let's play around a little bit with repitching it.
When I die, when my coffin is being taken out. When I die, when my coffin is being taken out. When I die, when my coffin is being taken out.
Roll off some low end on the vocal. And if I play with these harmonics here, I can lose the definition of this voice a bit. So it becomes harder to hear what's being said, right? So if I loop this tighter while we work on it.
When I die, 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 when I die,
So you can get here and really have a lot of fun. Really mess things up with the spectral resonator. I love this for these kind of futuristic robotic voices. And if you're wondering another way that we could do this, another really good fun way to do this is turn off the spectral resonator. We could even combine the two, and let's say we bring an echo in front. Let me just try that this way. There we go. So let's put that in front of the spectral resonator. We'll turn off the sync. Let's have it in time. Feedback, short delay times. We can get this real metallic-y, ringing kind of sound, right? Turn it into a complete atmosphere here. I might use that to record out a little bit of that sound actually. The sort of almost frozen feedback version of this voice could make a really nice kind of drone in the underneath. So we might actually capture a bit of this in an audio track. And then we can potentially use that as another layer. So let's do this, record, turn that to in. And if things get a bit wild here, we can always have a limiter here just in case. Right, just an idea to capture that while I was messing around with that. So could use that potentially as its own kind of track, a little bit of a drone texture kind of layer in the background. I think there was some really good stuff, especially up here towards the end. And even this tail could be used as a downshifter and an upshifter into bits of the arrangement. So it's kind of like when you're messing around and sound designing, sometimes you might want to try out sometimes just grabbing a bit of a recording of something you're doing with the purpose of maybe creating a layer for another part of the track. So this hybrid reverb, I'm going to delete that limiter, I'm going to turn off. I'm going to put a hybrid reverb here, but not with all that kind of what just happened, more just a general bit of reverb on it. This layer here could be, we could use something like a sidechain compressor or Nicky Romero's kickstart. Just to get it to pump a bit and groove. So yeah, not a bad little layer to mess around with that you can create, as I said, just with a little bit of sound design and recording stuff out. And we've got this big long take, could have gone longer, could have messed around longer just for YouTube, keeping it nice, short and sweet. But this part, very workable, very usable, and it can really be turned into all sorts of stuff. You can also play around here, the sidechain or Nicky Romero kickstart that's doing that. We could also do that another way here. Fun way to do this is to play around, keep it in beats, even though it's more a texture layer. So we can have a listen to it on its own. And then we change the preserve transients, keep it in beats, even though it's not really beats. We change the preserve transients to this straight through arrow here. And then we go into where it says transients, and we could choose 16ths and then bring down this value here. And we can make a sequence like, right? So you can have lots of fun with stuff like that. It's just what I'm trying to encourage here is, you know, don't overthink it sometimes. If you're in the flow, get in there, experiment, try things out, record, mess around with the reverb a whole bunch, and you might just end up with a very cool part that can become part of the rest of your track. So I'm going to call that texture, or Atmos, I think would be even better. But that can make a nice little layer that belongs to the track as well. That's the other, can't spell, Atmos might work. There you go. It can also become a really interesting, like it's part of the track. It came from something already in the track. It came from this little vocal idea that's then being, you know, turned into an atmosphere. So there's glue, there's a natural glue that already happens. What I am going to do here is just extend this bit that I'm using. Just try something here. Don't want it to repeat quite as much, so let's just do this. Just cut away that. Playing with side chaining the Nica Romero to the fast hi-hats instead of the kick gives it a bit of a different shape, and we'll stick with the kick for now. Just put an EQ on this. Nice to have a bit of a filter on this as well. A bit of automation perhaps. Let's go LFO. Slow it down. Have a bit of delay on this box as well. Another echo, but doing that. All right, nice. All these nice smashed up drums that we smashed up earlier, and the variations from this rack. Okay, chord and a lead I think would be good here. So let's have another MIDI track, and here we're in A minor. Given that we've gone back to this chord here as the main sequence so far, the main musical sequence, it's really just made up of notes that fit in lots of scales, just A twice, octave apart, and a C, so not much conflict there with too many scales. We've got a little bit of tuning elsewhere, but nothing really to worry about too much. So we've got lots of flexibility about where we might go with music. But let's have some chords as like a bit of a, almost like a dub kind of techno-y type chord. So let's say we are in A minor, and let's have a chord on right on the start. We'll just go with a basic triad for a second. And what we might do here, we could have operator again, we could have wavetable here. Could be nice to have a sample here, but maybe what we'll do is we'll play around with something from Ableton, and then we might compare it to a sample using a sample here. So let's try, what have we got in Ableton if we go strings? Because we could also look for sample that comes with Ableton, so you could follow along, but I'm looking for, let's try that first. Let's try, what are we going to have? String one shot or audio. So that could be interesting. So if we end up using this, we'll check out where it lives inside of Ableton. Let's drag that down and drop it into a simpler. So this string doesn't really have any key to it, so we'd need to figure out what the tuning is. So we might grab ourselves a tuner in case we use this. But right now we have this chord here, right? And so what we might do just to establish the tuning is we'll create another MIDI clip here, because we have no idea what key that string stab is, or that string sound. So all we want really is just a C note, middle of our piano on C3. And then we put a tuner there, and let's see. We're getting nothing in our tuner, which can be the case sometimes. Which is a bit annoying, but it happens. We can figure out another way. Could be made up of multiple pitches as well. Yeah, no response there on the tuning side of it. Let's try another few sounds and see whether we get one that's easier for us to work with, so you can see what I'm talking about as well. Could be helpful. So we'll go back in here, or back to our library, string, and then we were looking at, could be a loop or a one shot. We're on a one shot. Go back up here. That's what we grabbed. Well, the reason I'd rather maybe use a sample here, as I said, is I can get a lot more kind of texture to that, rather than a synth that tries to sound like a string that isn't a string, perhaps. Again, not really any help there. None of those. This could be interesting. I like that. Okay, so if our tuner doesn't want to play ball, seems that it doesn't. Seems like it's almost non-existent. Let's just see if we can find what's going on here, potentially. Kind of looks like it could be a C actually, which is useful. Still nothing there. So, do we like it down that octave or higher? Go with our bass. So another good candidate for some sort of like pump or side chain, so we can get some nice movement into these strings. Right now it's very static. I think I like it up in this octave. When I lowered it down, well actually it's down an octave, right? So let's grab our side chain from over here, our kickstart, drop that onto here. Even at 50% in that shape, it's a lot more groovier and moving. Okay, a little bit of a change here. I'm just kind of making a few adjustments as I go. So I'm just extending the shape of the string envelope here, extending the release a little bit. I just turned off that side chain for a second because I kind of want this chord to play, then there'd be a nice gap, and then we're going to play it again. So let's try to set that up a little bit. This is what I'm kind of thinking in my head here. So we can take our EQ out the way just for a second. We can EQ it as well while it's there. But yeah, I think we have a couple of copies of this clip, down an octave and up an octave. So that's what I'm trying out there. Be nice in a break to go down this octave. When there's more music, we can go up an octave. By the way, do feel free to say hello in the chat if you're watching the stream live. If you've got any questions about Ableton Live, Electro, classic, modern, Detroit, drop them in the chat. Love to hear from you. Chavi Diaz and Capers have already thrown some suggestions and said hello, so don't be shy. Changing my bass around a bit. So I kind of adjusted the coarse tuning of the oscillator B and I lowered the coarse tuning of A. Because that's okay, but I'm looking for a little bit more kind of tension, if anything. So I kind of like this 2 here, down in there. Sounds a bit more futuristic and a bit nastier. Could even have a bit of noise here, so maybe we can throw a bit of a noise oscillator up here on the C. Back to our pitch envelope as well. Got a little bit of reverb on the tail of these string chords. I think we can have some panning on this as well. Let's get it moving around our head a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to leave the sidechain off now that I've dialed in the length of these strings. A lot of that can be adjusted with the length of the notes and the release of the notes. top of these back up an octave, but with a new length. All right, why not try for one more harmony or a little bit more kind of maybe a little lead kind of sequence in here, which we could do a few ways. Again, we might try out a couple of different ideas, see what we come up with. Thinking something a little bit brighter, so maybe we'll start with an analog, that sort of sawtoothy sound, and we might try and kind of write in the melody, and then we'll see. Otherwise, we might sort of sequence something. Yeah, so I was looking for a very, very simple kind of little riff that keeps on repeating, that we can obviously develop a lot further, but just a very simple kind of sequence here and kind of quite bright. So deliberately kind of more that higher sort of sound. And I just want it to work in and around the bass. And also the strings. So we might want to carve a little space for it. I do like this string pattern, but let's try something here. So let's just take stock of what we got here. So this can go using that. Let's copy this down. And in here, let's just mute the second ones and then have a little play around. If we just move our start point here, can have a conversation with each other. So I could have shifted these notes to play here and here. So one way you could manage this is to move all this over like so, and then bring this back to here. But I just did that a quick way. So hopefully some of you followed how I sort of made that work. But if we do it this way, you can kind of hear the relationship, right, a little bit easier. So let me just get these clips lined up properly so we can sort of see it in action, right? So that's kind of what we're creating here, the sequence kind of triggering in between. And we could also even make this double its length and then take out some of these, right? So I think that even works better. Or did I take out the wrong ones? I took out the wrong ones. So yeah, if we go back to there, we want to take out those ones, put these ones back in. So sometimes it takes a little bit of figuring out when you're adjusting that from where we came from. Yeah, so now we've got that space. And if we want, on this analog, because we've given it some space like we have, we could now kind of get in here and have a longer kind of delay type tail happening on it. Let's listen to clip 2 with the full string pattern. I think it still works, but it's kind of nice to have the conversation between the strings and the lead. So this, let's just label this up. This is the lead. This is our strings. This is our bass over here. It's a bit of housekeeping. This is one of our drums. So let's say that's drum 2. And this is our 909 drums over here, just so we don't get lost in the weeds here a bit. Certainly like to add a bit more percussion in here. That would be a future goal. We've also got some clips here, 1 and 2, different possibilities that we've been flushing out as we go. We can now do that now that we've labeled those, and that is what? Another duplicate of that, which I think is safe to say we've got. So we can get rid of that as well. Nice. Back on track a bit here. This is our Vox over here, which is fairly heavily modified. And then our Atmos that we carved out of that Vox with a whole bunch of reverb on it. Right. Yeah, really, so that bass variation now could actually work quite well following these chords, because I actually made a bit of a progression here in these notes. So in theory, this could be, hang on, something like that, and probably that original idea here, this thing I was playing with here, that doesn't really work anymore, but I could build something like that off the same shape as what's going on in the strings, and that would make a bit more sense musically in terms of that movement. So something to work on there. For now, we're going to stick with our nice repeating sequence. Let's have our good old friend beat repeat over here to spice this little lead melody up as well, similarly to what we did with the bass. Let's have a little bit of variation in here. What I might do, just develop this a little bit myself. Nice. So we didn't get any raw happening anywhere, but it could be nice to have a bit of raw. Hang on the bass here, a little bit of sound design. bass up a bit. Also on this drum kit. All right, so let's do a little bit of a recap. We're going to wrap things up here on the dots here of 6:30 at this end. I hope you've enjoyed the new live stream timing of kicking off at 5 o'clock Central Eastern Time. If that's been something you've really enjoyed, do drop me a comment or let me know in the chats. It's sort of trying things out. I'm thinking to start at that time. I normally start at 3 p.m. Central Eastern Time, my local time, so 2 hours later. Also trying to keep the stream maybe under 2 hours, see where we get. This is an hour and a half to where we've arrived here on this Electro idea. So what did we do? Let's have a little bit of a recap. Before I go, as I said, if you've got any questions as well, do drop them in the chat. But we kind of started with a nice classical 909 drum kit, and we rolled out this beat here. This is what it looks like. If you missed that part, you can go back and watch the very start of the stream. We started with a drum groove. And that's pretty important to this genre, this kick pattern, and then the snare on the 2 and the 4. And then we've got some nice kind of fast closed hi-hats and some open ones up here also on the 2 and 4, which are sort of accenting the snares. And then what I did was I copied that drum groove over to another drum rack, a more sort of modern style kit. And what we've also been doing is we've been playing around with the snapshots a lot. So we've kind of preserved how the kit comes out of Ableton's browser and goes onto a track, the macros, how they're set up. And then some of these racks, like this one, this boom kit, has different snapshots already, but I created my own, and I then started to randomize these macros. So it's a lot of fun. So if you're over here and you go back to the original here, and then you start to randomize that rack, the whole idea was to kind of leave the 909 original in its classic kind of sound and have this modern rack over here that I mangled and crunched up and destroyed. And then I'm layering that alongside of the 909 together. So we've got the 909 doing its classic kind of move, and then the other drum rack giving us some nice flavor. Then I made a bass, operators, the synth. We arpeggiated chord. It's gone through a few different changes, but I think actually this is the original pretty much as it was from the start. So we've got a nice kind of simple chord triad, arpeggiating on an up and down arpeggiator, an operator that's had a bit of work done, 3 oscillators, pitch envelope, some nice feedback going on here and there. It's being used as a subtractive synth. That's what this traffic light tells us down here. And then on the bass, a little bit of secret sauce, bit of beat repeat in here. That's giving us a little bit more variation on top of the arpeggiator. So we get more pattern. If we turn that off, it's even more static. So this gives us these nice little fills every now and then. And then we went over and we got some vocals in, or some voices, changed the timing very slightly, but not a lot. Nothing too fancy on the timing side. Main thing was to play around with spectral resonator, which is great for these robotic, futuristic kind of voices, along with echo with a very short delay time on the left and right channels. They are synced, but they're in time, not in note sync. So that gives us this really nice metallic tone over here on our vocal. Bit of gap here, fresh air, but it comes back. Yeah, so I layered the two. One or the other is quite nice on its own. Lots of flexibility there. Pitched it down, added an echo later on. There's a bit of reverb as well. And I actually recorded that, like the reverb on this track, messed around with the size, the decay, and the algorithm side, and we created this from that vocal with a big heavy reverb. Recorded that out, and we've got this nice little kind of sequency piece or atmosphere, droney texture piece in the background. And then last but not least, kind of worked on these strings and leads. So we grabbed ourselves a sample, this one here. Let's just actually check. So we'll just click hot swap there. That should take us to the browser. There it is there. So let's just do a right click and say show in places. So where is that living? It is inside a folder. So yeah, unfortunately, I wasn't sure where that came from, but in the end, it is from my sample library. So you won't find necessarily that sample in your browser, but I'm sure you can find some string audio samples. There's definitely plenty that come bundled with Ableton, and you're looking for something a bit like what I found. I added that string sample into here. It gave me a nice texture to work with, and then I've turned that into a little progression. Because it's most likely a chord by itself, I'm only playing single notes here because I can hear it's more of a harmony. And we have a busier progression and a more lighter progression. And this last one, we've made some space for a melody over here, this lead to play in between those string notes that are happening here and here. We muted the parts of the lead and added the lead in and around. So the strings, they sound like this. Got that really nice old school vintage sound. The lead is an analog synth. Nice and bright, shiny, kind of sawtooths and a square tooth, detuned a bit, filter envelopes, ADSR, and a bit of echo to fill in those spaces between the melodies. Could even be backed off a little bit. So it kind of dies out by the time the next. And all together, we've got this. I could start to hear different scenes coming together here, variations of the arrangement as we build it up, turn it into a track. So there you go, ladies and gents. Electro in an hour and a half in Ableton Live. A nod to the head. Beatport was the influence on the thumbnail of the video. Their labeling of the electro genre in Beatport is classic, Detroit, modern. So this is a bit of a nod to the head of all those different pieces. The lead's a little bit like Detroit, the 909 is a nod to the classics, and then modern, well, I think some of the things like the vocals and the bass perhaps in that area. So it's been great to have you with me. Thank you, Chavi Diaz and Capers, for saying hello and throwing some suggestions in the chat. Appreciate that, and I appreciate all of you. So, as always, as we wrap things up, if you have enjoyed this video and you do wish to take your music further and develop techniques that are specific to your own music and your own sound, I work one-to-one with DJs, artists, and producers on exactly this stuff, what I've been showing today. There's a link in the description down below where you can book a free call if you like, and we can figure out together if it's a good fit for either of us, and then we could map out what your signature sound could sound like. There is no pressure on that, it's just a conversation. Feel free to click that link below and book a call with me. Also, a small favor to ask, as always, is if you did enjoy this video, share it with a mate. Push those buttons, they help the channel a lot. Also feel always free to drop any comments if there's something else you'd like to see me cover. If there's a question, something I missed in the video that you wish to have a further explanation, I get back, I read those comments, so feel free to do that. Chavi Diaz, thanks to you. Thanks very much for being here throughout the stream. Also, Capers, great to see you. Hope to hear from you soon. And thank you for the good job comment. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you enjoyed the stream. So on that note, keep on creating, everybody. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. And I'll see you all very soon. Do check, by the way, lastly, my YouTube community tab posts. I'm now putting in there little reminders of when I'm streaming next, the upcoming dates, and generally if I know the theme already, I'll add that in there as well. So keep an eye out for that. Take care, everybody. Keep on creating, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now. See ya.